Dude, we gotta crank this baby out. We've already done 8,000 takes! And I'm about to uppercut your nutsack off.
There's a reason we did 8,000 takes. Technical difficulties. A horrible update that wouldn't go through.
Yeah, it's true.
You tweaking your nipples incessantly.
I was just proud that my nipples finally came in. I was inverted for a long time.
That is disgusting, but it might have to do with the cold in here, which, by the way, didn't help this whole process, and now I want to kill you even more.
Yep.
But we're
going to get over that. Tensions are high.
But see, there's always a solution to high tensions, and
I like that.
What soothes us, the beasts in us, more than this beloved flick?
That's true.
A classic.
Unfortunately, we saw this 2 days ago, so
yeah, so now we're still
not really
pissed.
soothing anything.
But yeah, man, is it not true that this is like a fucking beloved flick in our family?
It's like a nice cup of Joe.
Yeah, it's home. It's comfy.
Even though I don't really like Joe.
It's a warm pillow, even though I don't like warm pillows.
All right.
I do like dirty pillows, and coincidentally, Beetlejuice is a pervert. So, segue to talking about Mom. She likes this movie.
All right.
No, but that's just a testament to this fucking movie. Tits, I mean.
Yeah.
No, yeah, man, it's just a beloved family film. And the irony of it is that, yes, in fact, Beetlejuice is a fucking pervert in it, so that's weird. Yeah. But it's not just a beloved family film for us. It's a beloved film for the fucking world. It made Tim Burton.
It spawned a cartoon that was beloved, apparently.
Apparently it was. Yeah, I used to love the shit out of that. Mm-hmm. There's a trinket of it somewhere around here that I guess we should have put on the fucking table, but we didn't.
But we're not going to do this again, so just go with it.
Yeah, but the point is, Beetlejuice, beloved. But why is it beloved? Well, 1, it's fucking great.
Yep.
2, it's a hoot and a holler.
Yep.
3, it's got some effects that to this day are
pretty
still
top notch.
Yeah, and really they're not top notch.
But they're
really
great.
They're hammy, they're cheesy, they're dated. But that's what works about them. Mm-hmm. That it's fully intentionally done this way, and it's unforgiving in the way it just goes forward and wallows in the past. Because really, this film is kind of like a hodgepodge of decades of artistic styles, everything from German Expressionism to fucking Andy Warhol to whatever. It's just thrown in there. All the things that inspired this man, Tim Burton, visually come to life in this movie. And it's interesting to note that this movie is the one that really did put Tim Burton on the map. Although in Hollywood, it was Pee-wee's Big Adventure. But the Tim Burton that we relish and that we love as film fans, this is where he was born. This is the one where we went, oh, that's what a Tim Burton movie is. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because it's such an important moment in his career that idea has lingered in fans' minds forever. To the point now that they hold this and a handful of others, and I'm talking Edward Scissorhands, Nightmare Before Christmas, which he didn't direct, by the way, but he did produce, and he pretty much might as well just been the director in it. Yeah. And for the more artsy-fartsy types like us, sometimes, Ed Wood, which I know is your favorite Burton flick, and rightfully so, it's fantastic. But those 4 films really made and gave the breath of life to what we consider Tim Burton. Yeah. So much so that we forget that that's kind of the only ones that are that highly influenced.
Yeah, that much, yeah.
I mean, there's obviously all his films.
They have influences.
Yeah,
like
they have
Batman
influences.
Has Burton-esqueness to it, but it never goes full Burton.
Yeah,
like
those do.
Beetlejuice does. Yeah.
And we forget that, man, and we kind of have come to.
I would even argue Corpse Bride touched on it pretty well.
Well, yeah, in terms of visuals, it did, but it never reached, the heights of those 4 films.
Yeah.
And the thing is, we as fans in the film world, as fans and as the general audience, we've kind of held a grudge against Tim Burton forever. And it really started with Planet of the Apes, but you could argue that kind of started rising around Mars Attacks, which wasn't very well received by fans.
I love Mars Attacks still.
Absolutely, I think it's great. But, people started kind of holding a resentment towards him because he wouldn't indulge fully in Burtonisms as he once did. And it's ironic because it's just those 4. But we're not even going to get into that whole mess because it's a winding path to talk about where Tim Burton's career has gone. Mm-hmm. We're going to go back to the root of it, to his second film that really, really is the defining moment in his career, and that's Beetlejuice, this beloved flick. Back when, Alec Baldwin wasn't a raving maniac.
Or, bloated.
Or, yeah, looking like us. And
I wasn't going to bring us into it, but yeah, we are fat.
Actually, I wish we looked like him. This is how
That's a good point,
sad and pathetic we look. But, back in the day when Gina Davis didn't look like a fish.
Yeah.
Yeah, she ruined her face.
Yeah, I would lick her butt back then, though.
Oh, yeah, she was great. But anyway, Beetlejuice, if you haven't seen it, and what the fuck? If you haven't seen it, what the hell's wrong with you? Go see it right now. Come back.
I'm pretty sure anybody over the age of like 20 has seen this movie.
They had to have.
Maybe like kids nowadays that suck donkeys watching Emoji Movie and shit. Maybe they have it.
Maybe. But if their parents are good parents, and they're probably not, they better have shown them Beetlejuice. But anyway, if you haven't seen it, real briefly, a recently deceased couple is bound to their home, and they're basically bound to haunt it. Unfortunately, they're not so well versed in the rules of the afterlife, and eventually a new family comes to live there, which they are at odds with, and they want out. And while they could haunt them away themselves, they instead resort to the services, if you will, of a self-proclaimed bioexorcist who calls himself Beetlejuice. And once they summon him, all hell breaks loose, basically. But it's a riot and a romp, is really what it is.
Yep. A hoot and a holler.
It is a hoot and a holler. Now, it wasn't always a hoot and a holler, though, because
okay,
little did you know, until apparently I told you, you just reminded me of this a few thousand takes ago.
Yeah.
Is that I talked to you.
Let me pretend like I didn't know. Keep going.
I'm not going to do that, but let's just go. Let's just move ahead.
Do it.
I'm not indulging this desire.
It's going to happen. So.
No, yeah, man, you reminded me about this a few takes ago. Literally, it's not even a joke. Nope. Fucking shit. But anyway, you reminded me that I informed you about this situation, but it bears repeating that this the reason this is in the horror nostalgia series of videos that we do is because this originally was a almost straight up complete horror film.
What?
Oh man. Okay, I'm gonna guardian that.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it originally was written more as a dark horror film with comedic elements rather than the opposite. And but that's not the reason we're sticking it in the horror nostalgia series. It's because people got to realize that horror doesn't mean scary movie. It means a movie with horror elements that are prominent. And that's written all over this movie. It's a horror movie. That's a comedy. Same can be said for Ghostbusters, Shaun of the Dead, Bad Taste, Dead Alive. I think really what fucking makes people go one way over the other is blood and gore. Because if you think about it, nobody goes Dead Alive is not a horror movie. Nobody says Bad Taste is not a horror movie.
Yeah, that's true.
Why?
Evil Dead 2
or Evil Dead 2, yeah.
Army of Darkness.
Yeah. All of them, they're like, yeah, they're horror movies. Why?
And no one says like Addams Family. I mean, it has horror elements in there.
I mean, it's a horror comedy.
Yeah.
But nobody says it because it's lacking the blood. This doesn't lack. I mean, this lacks the blood, so everybody's like, oh, it's just a comedy. Well, are you not seeing the same movie? Mm-hmm. Anyway, we're getting to semantics here, but the point is, that's why it's here. We're going to talk about this bad boy. I will say that this movie was made in a much saner time in Hollywood, before Alec Baldwin was, a bloated maniac, axe-wielding, what is it? I wanted to call him a sex maniac, but I don't want to go that far because that means something completely different in the current landscape. He's not.
Before he was sending weird voicemails to his daughter.
Yeah,
he was kind of normal.
Before he was proto Mel Gibson.
Yeah,
and also Gina Davis in this before she butchered her face.
Hollywood pariah.
Man, her face is not good.
It's not great.
It's sad, really, because she was like gorgeous. But anyway,
hit that hardcore.
Those are our stars, and they're really who we spend the most of the time in the movie with.
That is a weird thing. Winona Ryder also kind of like out of the spotlight. Well, she's kind of coming back into it. Michael Keaton for a long time was gone. He's back now.
Yeah.
Jeffrey Jones diddled some kids.
Yep, he sure did that.
That's a weird little thing we uncovered here.
Yeah, man. Everybody in this movie kind of faded away, but they didn't fade to the point where they were just Nobody's.
No.
They were always kind of lingering. Like the most prolific one is probably Alec Baldwin.
Yeah.
Because he stayed active the most of them.
Yeah.
Whereas Keaton, though he's the biggest name, obviously.
And definitely he's coming back.
Yeah, he was just not there for a long time.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's strange. That's true. The Beetlejuice curse, maybe?
Yeah.
Or I guess the Beetlejuice non-curse now. But anyway, yeah, they are all coming back, which is pretty cool. Unfortunately, Alec Baldwin needed a fucking break and he didn't take one.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, great cast through and through.
Mm-hmm.
Who is your favorite in this fucking movie besides Beetlejuice, which is everybody's favorite, obviously?
I'm not gonna lie, I always liked Adam
Maitland.
I always like how kind of like oblivious he is to things, and I noticed that that's kind of like a running gag where he says shit wrong, including Beetlemeyer and Beetlegeist. So yeah, I really like him.
Yeah,
I like his like kind of like innocent approach to the character. Oh, both of them really.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They're if these two hadn't been such a good couple on screen, if the chemistry hadn't been there the way it was, this movie would have tanked. No matter how good
Yeah.
Michael Keaton would have been, and he would have been good, period. But it really depends on them because though this movie is called Beetlejuice, he gets very minimal screen time.
Yeah, he doesn't come in until like 30 minutes in, maybe a
Yeah,
little more.
and even then, and after that, you know, he's away for a long time again,
Yeah.
and he just comes in at intermittent times. But that shows you how well balanced this movie is because it doesn't put. It's like an actual horror movie, like a scary one, quote unquote. They keep the monster at bay. They keep him in the dark. They keep him hidden until the right moments if they do it right. And that's what they do here. They treat it with that respect towards the monster. And every time he comes out, it's a fucking blast.
Mm-hmm.
You're never like, oh, he's back, or I'm seeing too much of him. You just want more of him.
So who in the
Really.
holler?
As aforementioned.
Yeah.
Yeah, now it's interesting. Like I said, this initially was more of a horror movie, as was originally written. But the reason, I don't think a lot of people realize how, man, I can't even, well, maybe Corpse Bride. Don't quote me on this, but Tim Burton hasn't written any of his films, if I'm correct. I'm sorry, the majority of his films.
Mm.
If I remember correctly, maybe even not any of them, with the exception of like Frankenweenie or something like that. Again, I might be off on that a bit, but he hasn't directly written the screenplays to the majority of his films, for sure. But they're still very distinctly Tim Burton films. And the reason that happens is because every time he picks a script, which he has that luxury to do ever since this movie, which is astonishing. You know, that's when you know you hit it big and hard from the beginning, when you have the luxury as a new incumbent director to just pick a script. And he did that with Beetlejuice. He picked it out of a lot, and it was initially more of a dark horror movie with comedic elements, but he whittled it down into what now can be called a Tim Burton movie, even though it's written by other people. But yeah, the original script was written by Michael McDowell, and yeah, much more darker inclinations. One thing that stuck for a long time in all incarnations of the script until this last version that we finally got on screen was that Beetlejuice was portrayed at one point and at varying lengths as an Arabian guy, like a Middle Eastern guy.
I kind of see it.
It's weird though. Like,
no, I don't see it. I was lying. I was trying to
trying to go with the flow.
trying to meet them halfway. Turns out I was the only one there.
You know what's even weirder than that? That at one point he was a Middle Eastern looking guy, and again, in some of these versions of the script, he chose the way he appeared at certain times. So that's why I said varying lengths. Sometimes he was the Middle Eastern guy for a whole fucking movie, basically, and sometimes just for short periods of time. But the point is, in one of the incarnations of the script, he had, or draft I should say, of the script, he had a African American kind of like street level vernacular, but was Middle Eastern in appearance.
Woo!
In the first version of the script, he was a winged demon.
All right, I could get behind the winged demon.
Yeah,
I don't know about the street lingo Arab guy.
This makes more sense. It's weird, and then when Tim Burton came in, you know, they just went through rewrite after rewrite, At one point, when the casting was coming into the horizon, he wanted Sammy Davis Jr., which I know you knew this, to play Beetlejuice. And that to some degree makes sense considering what I've just described to you.
It's weird.
But on the other end of the spectrum, it makes no sense.
He's going to be singing some tunes?
Yeah. On the Tim Burton end of the spectrum, it makes total sense that he would want Sammy Davis Jr. because he kind of has that kitschy, old school, I don't know what, like air to the things he puts on screen. So it makes sense on that level, but considering what was on the page, you're like, what the fuck? The fuck was this going to work? I don't understand where the street level fucking thugged out Middle Eastern guy comes into play.
Sammy D.
But yeah, man, he was actually convinced to bring Michael Keaton in, and he was sold on the whole idea relatively quick. Now, this is one of the example of a movie that, had they made the original thing, we probably would have forgotten about it. At maybe at best, even I wasn't gonna say worse, but yeah. But that's why I say it is a Tim Burton film to the core, because it was his continued whittling away at the product until it got to the point where it got down to little things like the music choices, which we can't even think of this movie without the Danny Elfman soundtrack,
Harry Belafonte,
or without the Belafonte tracks. I
always wondered if Harry Belafonte hated this movie or loved it.
He can't have hated it. If he was a cantankerous old fuck towards the end, but how could he?
I mean, he's still alive.
He's still alive?
Yeah, he's still alive.
Man, I thought he got fucking bitten by a banana fucking spider or some shit.
It is highly deadly black tarantula.
That's what I'm saying here. But, damn, that actually shocked me. But he's still alive? Fuck. Yeah. I thought he was fucking dead.
No.
Pretty sure I killed him. But anyway, the point is,
you killed
I'm a horrible sniper.
You apparently killed an innocent guy.
Some random Jamaican.
Yeah.
He's from Jamaica, right?
No, he's actually American. That's actually a phony
accent. Son of a bitch.
It's a phony accent.
My world is collapsing.
He had a whole singing career without that voice.
Fucking crap, man. I'm dead. I killed some poor Jamaican.
Yeah, you did.
Anyway, my apologies to Jamaica for taking one of your denizens. I don't know why I was hunting for Harry Belafonte, but I was. But yeah, man, down to little things like that. He chose that because at one point it was R&B tracks that were
what is this film?
Yeah, the musical cues. That's pretty strange, right?
I kind of want to see it.
Yeah, man. Now, let's talk about this. How we normally do, break it down to the little essences, the little things that make the whole, and that's let's start with the characters and the actors that portray. I think we're of the same mind when I say everybody's pretty fucking great in this.
Yeah.
I mean, there is not...
I don't think there's one person that I was like, that lady stinks or that guy stinks.
Everybody's great, man. Yep. They're just such characters, and they're like these archetypes pushed to, like, 10, the limits. Yeah. And it's hilarious. Any particular favorites in this old pick? Besides Beetlejuice, obviously.
Clearly the Keats. The Bald is pretty great, Baldwin. My girl Gina, for her face went to... It's not good, let's just say that. She's pretty great. Big fan of the Diddler. I like how I'm giving them little nicknames no one's going to know. But everybody's great.
Yeah, everybody's fucking fantastic. My personal favorite in this is...
Otho's great.
Again, besides Beetlejuice, is... Well, I feel... loath to say a favorite because again,
that's the thing. Like when I was trying to say something, I was just mentioning everybody.
Yeah, which was terrible, by the way. The worst section of this video. But yeah,
no, I like when we had to do it 1,000 times.
Well, thankfully, that's not in here.
Yeah,
but yeah, man, everybody is fantastic. So I guess I'll say standouts is everybody.
Yep.
But Michael Keaton as Beetlejuice is the show stealer, despite being in the movie for so little. It's actually kind of shocking when you think about it, how little he is in the movie, because the movie is really carried by Gina Davis and Alec Baldwin playing the couple in question, and they do a fantastic job because they're so lovable, relatable. They're just, you kind of wish you were them, except for the whole dead thing, I guess.
Well, that's not a good part.
But yeah, man, they're just good. They have a chemistry that makes them really sweet characters. You can't hate anything they do. And oddly enough, their antagonists, as it were, are this invading family that are really at odds, and it's almost like a culture clash, or a class clash, I guess, because they're very different from them. But you can't even hate them, even though they're kind of like the antagonists, sort of the movie, because their quirks. At least to me, I don't know if you'll agree with this. I know you think they're all great, but their quirks are what make them lovable.
They're turned up so high, like we previously stated, that they're kind of likable.
Yeah, man. My particular favorite is Delia.
She's pretty great.
Catherine O'Hara is fucking wonderful. I love Delia Deetz, even though she is a shrill, selfish, self-important nag.
Yep.
Every moment is hilarious with her, just because of that. And then she has to play off what's his face that's dead now, Otho.
Otho's great, dude.
Fucking shit, yeah, man.
Oathmeister.
I love Otho. Now I got a question for you.
Uh-huh.
I know you always hated this, so I'm wondering if you still hate it. And it's the way Otho is quote unquote done away with.
Yes, it doesn't make any sense.
Now, please tell me.
Sorry, but I'm strong with it. I don't
Go
understand. Ahead. Like, is it just like he's embarrassed?
No.
He makes him into a little like blue suit wearing guy.
I've given you literal decades to figure this out, and I was this go round when we last saw it. I was like, he's got to get it this time.
The color?
You're kind of on the right track, but no.
Tell me.
It's polyester. What's the designer's worst nightmare? Is polyester. You put him in a polyester suit. It's a joke.
Yeah, I guess it's not great, but
okay. Anyway, I know you hated that, so I just had to bring it back. I
still think like Otho should have a worse.
I mean, nobody croaks.
No, that's impressive. Yeah, no one dies.
Yeah, nobody dies in this movie, which is good.
I mean, they do, but
I mean, yeah, by default of the plot, but nobody is done away with literally. Yeah. But what's interesting to note is that this movie also had a variety of endings. And one of them included the Dietzes, the living family, joining the Maitlands in small form in the model of the town. Why? Now, I don't know exactly how that would have worked, but apparently that was one of the endings.
Why?
I don't know. That was just one of the fucking endings.
All right.
Yep. So that's fucking weird.
Yeah.
But, thankfully, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
And instead, it's got to have one of the most satisfying endings.
Yeah, everybody's good.
Everybody is copacetic with each other.
Except for Beetlejuice.
And the characters grow because of that. Except for Beetlejuice. But he doesn't need to grow. He needs to be this eternal jackass, basically.
Yep.
But yeah, man, the characters, their story arc, the way they grow and or change, especially the Dietzes, and in the terms of Maitlands, the way they adapt. All fantastic. Special shout out to my girl, Winona. This was the first time I ever whacked it.
All right.
Knowing what I was doing. You know what I'm saying? I'd whacked it before, but I was kind of like, what is this? What is this thing that I'm doing? What's this tugging motion?
Yeah, you're like, why?
This was the first time that I was like, man, Winona there. She was my first crush. I still think she's beautiful.
Winona?
And if they ever make Beetlejuice 2, which are still being, somewhere in the background, it's still a work in progress somehow. I want her back, and I want her good. But anyway,
I'm not gonna lie. There's several people I would lick the butts off in this movie.
Is it Jeffrey Jones, dude?
No, it's not Jeffrey.
Look,
this time
we can't avoid this fucking subject. Before you go there,
all right.
It's just we gotta get it out there in the open. I love Jeffrey Jones in this movie.
Yeah,
in fact, I like him in a lot of movies.
Yeah, he's great in Ed Wood.
Yeah, he's fantastic. I mean, he was, and actually still remains kind of one of Tim Burton's go-to guys. Ed Wood, Sleepy Hollow, etc. But but before this whole Hollywood hubbub about Me Too and weird sex cases and shit, this guy has a history. Yeah, apparently he was in possession of some child pornography.
Yeah.
And this happened quite a while ago. Now, it seemed that there was some sort of like a roundabout. The pictures were deemed artistic.
You know what's weird? Interesting parallel. Pee-wee.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So they had a similar thing, except that Pee-wee got away because they were actually artistic. Yeah. Whereas Jeffrey Jones
was like, they're artistic.
Yeah, his excuse was literally that. Pee-wee's, it appeared that they actually
Yeah.
passed snuff. It was actually art. His were like, dude, doesn't count as art when weird stuff is happening.
Yep.
So Jeffrey Jones, unfortunately, as great as he is,
A little bit of a diddler.
he diddles.
Yeah.
I mean, he may have diddled. Well, what?
It's an implied diddle.
We don't know. Yeah, implied diddle. Hashtag implied diddle.
Yeah.
But he's still great in the movie.
He's really good.
And, you know, so you kind of have to separate yourself from that a bit. But whatever, you know. Can't help it. He did what he did. It's done.
He diddled.
He diddled what he diddled. But anyway, let's talk about the effects in this movie, which really, as aforementioned, are a hodgepodge of influences in Tim Burton. And the effects are super important in this movie. They don't steal from the plot, thankfully, and that's hard to do because they're prevalent in this. There's effects everywhere. Like, almost every fucking scene is filled with effects.
Mm-hmm.
And what's awesome about them is that, like I said, they run the gamut of effects influences, everything from stop motion to... I mean, the only thing we don't really have here is computer-generated imagery, but that's
Thank
because,
God, yeah.
you know, it was very nascent at the time.
Yeah.
But what do you think, man? What do you think about these effects? Do they still hold up? Give me some effects talk here.
I think actually most of them do still hold up. I even like... Well, I'm a pretty big fan of stop motion, but I think the stop motion this is actually pretty damn good.
Mm-hmm.
Even for, you know, like someone who might be like, I think it's pretty good.
Yeah.
All the makeup shit's good. All the prosthetic stuff is good. Occasionally you get a green screen or blue screen that's a little bit, like, you can tell. But even then, there's some really good ones in there. I'm thinking specifically of one where I don't remember her name. Winona Ryder. Is looking,
Lydia?
Yeah, there you go. He's looking down into the model when the Maitlands are coming back and dying and shit.
Oh yeah, you
and
can see the border around Beetlejuice.
around his hair, and there's like some, you know, reflection. But other than that, everything was really good, visually.
Yeah, the great thing about the effects, even the ones that aren't 100% on point.
Yeah, they add to the feeling.
Yeah, it adds to the feeling. And what's fantastic about it is that if you read up on Burton and this film, is that his intent was to make them shoddy and to make them feel rustic. And so even when they don't work, it's walking, or I should say they don't work in quotes, it's walking that line between intentional and not.
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
Because I'll say this, like, some of the stop motion that some people might be like, oh, it's choppy, they use it in good places.
Mm-hmm.
Like the art that comes to life is like, oh, that actually makes sense why they would walk like that or whatever. And the sandworm I thought looks cool as hell. And so they use those kind of like iffy, not iffy, but they're not iffy, they're really good, but those kind of like, you know, effects. Those old school effects for the afterlife stuff mostly.
Yeah.
Which adds to that kind of like, oh, this is a cool realm, that wonder for the viewer. So it actually helps quite a bit. Yeah,
it really does, and it paints a distinct picture of the way the Netherrealm works. You know, it's visually striking, and then on top of that, it's you know, kind of juxtaposed with this kind of silly idea that it's not this hellish fucking landscape.
Yeah, it's just like mundane.
Yeah, it's like this banal bureaucracy. You know, it's more about waiting in line than anything.
It's like a trip to the DMV.
Yeah, exactly. You know, hellish in that respect, but at the same time,
pretty normal.
And that's awesome, man, because again, juxtaposed with that imagery, it makes for a very unique feeling. Yeah, something like, very much of its own.
Classic scene when they go into the waiting room and you see all these dead people. Well, they're just there waiting.
Yeah.
But there's like all these like really cool effects and really neat looking things, but they're just waiting. It's boring in this world. But it's like that cool little like contrast where it's like, oh, look at all these cool designs. Look at them just sitting and being bored.
Yeah, awesome. That's really awesome, because usually the Hollywood response is, let's make the effects do something.
Yeah.
Here it's like, let's make them not do anything.
One of my favorites is the smoking guy. Was like this horrifying looking creature, and he's just sitting there smoking.
Very casual.
And he's like,
friendly.
Want to smoke? And he's like, no.
I gotta say, he was kind of cute.
He is cute, yeah.
That sounds kind of weird, but it's true.
Yep.
Now, there's not a lot of action per se in this movie, but there is, you know, that.
There's moments.
Yeah, there's moments of, I don't know, like a horror romp moments.
Yeah.
You know, when Beetlejuice especially gets to doing his thing. That's really where the action, quote unquote, is centered around. And I gotta say, brilliant timing on it.
Yeah.
Because when it comes, you've been waiting for it with bated breath the whole fucking time. Because really, each Beetlejuice appearance just makes you anxious to see him let loose in full.
Yeah.
So
and when he comes out, he's like, it's showtime.
It really is. And what a catchphrase, because it went on to become legendary thanks to the cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
And it really embodies Beetlejuice. You know, he's about the moment.
Yep.
And really, that's pretty much what he is, other than being a straight up pervert. Interesting side note: in some of the original versions of the script, he was like he wanted to. Let's just put it this way: in some of the first drafts, and they stayed for a while, his intent was not to marry Lydia. Which the implications of that, or the insinuations of that, I should say, is that by marrying her, he can cross the bridge from the nether realm to the real world. It's implied heavily.
It's like how visas work.
But originally, he just wanted to rape Lydia.
Woo!
Yep. So I'm glad they changed that.
Yep.
Thank you, Tim Burton. Although maybe if they had kept that, Jeffrey Jones would have been like, I'll be Beetlejuice. But then they said, no, dude, we got Michael Keaton. So he settled with spanking Winona Ryder on her ass in the movie.
Yeah, he did.
Oh, come on, man. But anyway, it's great, man. When the action comes, it comes at the right moment, and it's comedic and just fun. It's fun to fucking watch.
Mm-hmm.
And then goes in conjunction with these effects.
Yeah.
You know, because they're wild and they're crazy.
Yeah, miniatures and freaking weird chattering teeth.
Stuff that really doesn't make sense.
The sandworm, I never understood how the sandworms work, but it doesn't matter.
I've thought about this before, and this is the best I can theorize. In some of the original scripts, every time they left the house, they would end up somewhere else. And they ultimately just changed that to
Saturn?
To Saturn, yeah. Or I should say one of the moons of Saturn. But that's what they changed it to. And the sandworms reside there, and apparently it's because when they're being held in this kind of limbo state, in terms of the dimension that they are at, it's just kind of like they're free floating in nowhere, right? So them versus humans stepping out, the ghosts versus humans stepping out, just takes them to this landscape, right? So I'm assuming it surrounds the house. Now, when we see...
Now, I understand that. Yeah, but I guess that's where you're going. When she crashes in and destroys Beetlejuice, I was like, how? Back, and I'm still a little confused by that, so I want to hear your explanation.
Well, again, since apparently this realm would just surround the space that the house, is hanging in this void, sort of, she could just, I don't know, hop on one of these bad boys and kind of direct it to... Because we saw the fucking door hanging in the middle of nowhere, so she kind of could go, there's where the house is. It's a stretch.
It's a very big stretch.
It really makes no fucking sense.
Absolutely no sense. But it is cool.
Here's another thing that doesn't make sense. Adam Maitland is shrunk by Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
Put into the model.
Yeah.
And in a bid to stop him then, he gets in a toy car that somehow
works. Yeah.
Has an engine and works. So that makes no sense.
You know what also doesn't make sense? Why is Beetlejuice in the help room when it's established that he's going against Juno?
Well, he was just rogue. He just went rogue. There was actually a draft of the script where they explained Beetlejuice's entire role. And it was just he was a guy that used to live at that house at some point in time. And he was, he tried, if I remember correctly, he tried to commit suicide. He failed, and because of the way he ended up dying, he ends up being, I guess, his afterlife punishment, so to speak, ends up being as Juno's assistant. And in that position, he learns the ropes of everything and goes off on his own to do his own thing, if you will. So he's just a dead guy. He's not, like as suggested in the original scripts, a demon or something like that. He's just a dead guy. He's mastered the craft. Just like Juno knows all the answers, Well, he does too. He's just using it for his own gain. Now, what I really want to know is, what is his gain? Because up until the Maitlands, you got to assume that he didn't want to marry anyone, because he would have done it with anybody.
Mm-hmm.
But he waited until the Maitlands to do the marrying bid. So what was his fucking purpose all these other times that he's done it? Because it's established in the movie
that he's done it
before, and he's wreaked havoc.
Yeah.
But to what ends? Just because he wants to? Just because it's his thrill? That's a question that I have.
I think he didn't actually want to go through into her, or maybe he did, but I think he just wanted to bang. I think he just wanted to bang Lydia.
Because originally it was Jeffrey Jones that wrote the script, apparently. Yeah, man. But see, the thing is, you don't ask yourself these questions while you're watching the movie.
Yeah.
It's so fun. It's so engaging. It's so wild and crazy and awesome that you don't care about, potential plot holes or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you just don't care. You're just so engaged in what's going on. But anyway, another thing that helps make the tapestry of this film so fucking badass and fun is the score, which we have kind of touched upon already. So let's just get into that real quick. Go.
Pretty big fan of Danny Elfman in this one. And my boy Harry Belafonte. He's in there a lot. But I gotta say though, I still get warm feelings anytime you pop this sucker in and you get that black screen. And you hear the and then the little logo. That always gets me. And then the badass theme, I still think is probably my favorite theme of all time. And then throughout the whole movie, you get this weird, chaotic, like playful music almost. Danny Elfman.
Yeah.
And then of course it's brilliantly supplemented by Harry Belafonte's entire discography being listened to by Adam for some reason. It's great.
Yeah, it's one of those iconic scores. One of those that I just had to buy on album, because it's one you can listen through and through, straight throughout. There's no dull selections or anything like that. Just cool, man. Just adds so much to the vibrant tapestry that's being woven already. It's already fucking great. And on top of that, you got this. So just imagine.
The main theme, I think, really captures Beetlejuice's essence. That it sounds like a mischievous little tune, Like if I'm gonna cause some mischief, I want to put that tune in there.
It's just while you're whacking off. That's really
that's
going on here. But yeah, there's nothing bad to say about this score. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Iconic, timeless, awesome. Again, just like this was a turning point for Tim Burton, this was a big watershed moment for Danny Elfman, who was already a musical artist, but this is kind of like, all right, well, this is probably going to be your life from now on. Turns out, that's what happened.
I do want to add a little more to the score, in that in my childhood, it was two movies that I remember having scores that at certain moments made me go, yay, it's perfect for this moment.
Turn into Ice Cube.
Yeah, and it was this one, in that there's like just random little, so the selections they choose are so perfect for the moments, and Ghostbusters, which if you listen to, I will say this, if you listen to Ghostbusters score alone, it's kind of weird, but in the movie they use those selections perfectly, to give it the eerie feel or the badass feel or the just warm feel. And that's something that I gotta say also with Beetlejuice. Maybe it's because these are the two movies I watched the most as a kid. And yeah, that's one thing that I wanted to say about the scores. Segment over. Pick it up.
Click, clack.
Yep.
Boom, clack. Boom, boom. Aye. That's a reference
nobody will get. That's a reference I barely get.
But anyway, the last thing we got to talk about this, we've already talked about, and that's the visual and aesthetic look of this thing. What is there to say? But the whole thing,
pretty great,
complements itself.
Yep.
It is a Tim Burton movie. That's it. Plain and simple. Just to look at it, you go, oh, that's a Tim Burton movie.
Yep.
There's no mistaking it. This is, again, the one that set in stone what visual flavor Tim Burton brought to the table. And this has gone on since then, like I said. And that's why people kind of, I think, bemoan it, is because they've lost the heavy push towards these visuals. And I don't know if he's gotten lazy. I don't think that's the case. But I think he's become over-dependent on CGI.
Yeah.
Which is, I understand it's a cost-cutting measure.
It does.
And it allows you to do a lot more, a lot faster.
But it robs it of a lot of the charm.
Yes. Now, he has said that if he does do Beetlejuice 2, which, again, every fucking time, almost every year, it's like, oh, it's finally happening. Mm. In fact, it just happened like a few months ago again. It's happening again. Every time he does say it has to be the right way, and it has to be the right moment, otherwise he won't do it. And it's been made relatively clear the few times he said it that this applies also to the approach to the effects, which is important. And I think he does know that, and I think that that's a good thing, because if they ever do get to do it, 10 million years from now, that's something that he needs to bring to the He can't over depend on the CGI if he's going to make a sequel to this. Now, there have been various drafts for sequels. The most famous and maligned of all being Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian, which is still owned by Geffen. So it's still a possibility somehow, although I doubt it. Now, a lot of people fucking shat on this, and I even used to shit on this concept until I read a bit more detailed version of it. Now, I didn't read the script. I don't even know if that script is out there. It probably is, but I did read a more detailed version, description of it, and it started to make sense to me. I was like, oh, I could see why he would want to do this. And apparently, he was the one that threw that idea out there. So it was a Tim Burton idea. And it was written by somebody else, as would be expected. And you'd hope, with some of the details in this, you'd hope that it would have gotten whittled down to something different. Because it did have, apparently, a scene where Beetlejuice surfs, which does not need to happen. But the core concept and idea makes complete sense. And that is that the Dietzes, how did I forget his fucking name? Jeffrey Jones, Diddler. His character, Charles Dietz, is in real estate, right? Mm-hmm. So they buy real estate in Hawaii. They build this fucking big-ass motel, but they build it on an old Hawaiian burial ground, and the hotel is haunted. So they use their links to the afterlife to bring Beetlejuice to exercise the real estate, and then chaos ensues.
That does make sense. I will say, I think a lot of the hate, I mean, I can't talk for people, but a lot of the hate, it just seems like a gimmick.
It does. And I think, ultimately, that was the intention, because Tim Burton expressed the desire to see these two things that made absolutely no sense together. So I think gimmick is the right description. Would it have worked or not? I don't know, honestly. And I hope really that we don't find out that way. But
I mean, it might have been good.
It might have been.
It's one of those that when you hear it,
it did. Yeah,
it gives you like a freaking hateful feel.
Yeah, off the cuff, it's like, I don't want to see that.
But you're right. It might have been good. You never know.
And of course, there were other versions. At one point, Beetlejuice was going to be in the hood with some black guy.
It makes more sense with the original version of Beetlejuice.
It does. Yeah. And nowadays, the Middle Eastern version would have made more sense too. Yeah. So there's been a variety of times when apparently it was going to happen or not. But all we know is that it depends. If you don't get Michael Keaton in this and Tim Burton directing it, how many people are going to care? Not many. So that's what needs to happen. In the meantime, we will always have this.
I do also want to give a shout out to the quality of the Blu-ray.
It is
really nice. It does suck that we don't get a special edition of this ever. The only version you get is the one that comes with 3 freaking cartoon episodes, which is cool, but not really. Well, I would love to see like a cool version of this that has like interviews or like, some cool features.
I think it'll only happen if we ever get a fucking sequel, is the sad part.
Yeah.
But
you always get the bare bones versions, but when it comes to quality, it's really good looking.
Yeah, in terms of the look, it looks fantastic. And it sounds great, too.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's been us reminiscing about one of our favorites, the old Juiced Beetle, as I like to call him.
I always wanted a Beetlejuice / Ghostbusters crossover, just to see the rules.
That would be great.
Clashing.
It wouldn't make any sense.
No, but it'd be great.
But who'd care at that point?
Mm-hmm.
Point is, let us know what you think about Beetlejuice. If you haven't seen it, what the fuck are you doing? Go watch it. This has been Ahab and the Goontick talking this old flick that we want to dick because we're in love with it. And this rhyming is horrible. Let's stop that right now. Hit like, share, subscribe. Hit those notification buttons because we're out.